Hello and welcome to the program. I am Ekene Ndulue. The National Assembly is currently on a break, scheduled to resume after Ramadan. On this edition of the program, we shall focus on the expectations of the incoming 10th National Assembly. Here are the thoughts of some incoming legislators that will be part of the 10th Senate.
The 9th Senate, the 9th National Assembly is gradually winding down. Give us your general assessment of how they've performed over the last 4 years.
Well, my personal opinion, and with all due modesty and no prejudice to the members of the National Assembly, I feel that they could have done much better. For one thing, they didn't question any of the loans. We are in so much debt, and we have nothing to show for it. At least very little to show for it. And I would have expected that when the first loan was granted, before more and more is granted, they would have then audited what was done with the previous loans. And they were primarily rubber stamp. I don't think they served the interests of the people as much as they could have. That notwithstanding, maybe they had issues and constraints that I'm not aware of.
Generally, different legislatures have their identities. You alluded to it, that the 9th Senate has been tagged or labeled a rubber stamp. The 8th Senate was regarded as being more combative. What are you expecting from the 10th Senate in terms of its relationship with the executive?
Not necessarily combative, but certainly interrogative is a better word, the way I see it. I think that the 10th Assembly will be more focused on the needs of the people, a little bit more than this, not a little bit more, maybe a lot more than this particular Assembly, because most of, there are at least 72 new senators in the Senate, and if I'm correct, maybe only 50 out of all the members of the House of Assembly are old members. Everybody else is new. So I would think that we are more in touch with the people. I would say that I'm certainly, and I've spoken to the other, we have a feel for the pulse of the people and the country, and therefore we know that the country is in a very bad place. Therefore, we know that they're not as complacent as they used to be. They're angry, and therefore are going to hold us more accountable than they used to. You get messages like, we're watching you guys. Things that they're not as reverent as they used to be. In fact, they are more irreverent now. It's like, we elected you to do certain things and you must do them. That is, represent us well. So I think that this time we're going to be more focused on the people. I think the caucuses will be more in terms of interests of the people than party interests. Because even now we've started our little senatorial groups, and you can see that we're not very focused on parties. We're focused on zones, we're focused on an area, we're focused on the people generally, but not so much our parties. Party interests they have to align with people interests.
We're going to once again be seeing a huge turnover of legislators once the 10th National Assembly comes into being. Mm-hmm. This has been regarded as not too a good thing for the growth of the legislature in terms of its impact. Mm-hmm. What would you say about this?
I do not think they will be less effective, considering those that have been there have gotten too comfortable. They've lost touch with the people. So in a way, I think it's good. It's good because everybody's coming, at least the new ones are coming in very aware of why are we here. A lot more than when you had a lot of former governors, everybody's just there for the sake of being there. You didn't see much coming out of it. So I think it is a good thing until we stabilize as a nation. We are not going to be having the 3 terms, 4 terms, even when we do, how effective are they for being there so long?
We've seen a significant decline in female representation in the legislature in terms of this incoming 10th Senate. We're going to be having 3 female legislators in the Senate, yourself being one of them. How would you assess this situation, and what would you attribute this decline to in regards to having 9 senators in the 9th Senate, the outgoing Senate, and this time around it's going to be 3 senators that are female?
Obviously, I mean, it goes without saying that women participation has dropped greatly in the last 8 years. First of all, I think this particular Federal Executive Council had probably the least number of women. And then now, the National Assembly, going into the 10th Assembly, we have even much less. But it's not that women are not participating. The parties are not focused on the fact that women are 50% of the population, and therefore, as a nation, for us to develop properly, we have to carry along 50% of our population. There's just no question about it. And going forward, I think, like everything else in Nigeria, we never comply unless it's mandatory. And that's the truth. In the parties, whenever delegates are being picked, let's say sometimes they would say 3 delegates per ward. Before, they used to bring out all men, all over. And then the parties now said, oh, 3 delegates, but one must be female. And once they did that, then it wasn't a question of choice. You had to have a woman among the 3 for compliance. And until we do something like that, we are not going to see. I won't be surprised if nothing is done. The next assembly might be no women. But I hope we won't get to that. I am sure that the few men I've spoken to in the National Assembly are quite embarrassed by the situation. And I think as a nation, we are all a little bit embarrassed by it. We are supposed to be the leaders of Africa. And look at how well the other countries are doing in terms of, look at Rwanda, look at Senegal, look at South Africa. And so I think something needs to be done. And that is legislation.
Legislation?
Oh, yes. If a country like Indonesia, even Rwanda, and possibly Burundi, they've legislated their 35%. And then what a lot of countries have found is that when they put the minimum in, women excel. They do so well that the next time they bring them more and more and more. And so the fact that in some countries they're like 60% is out of choice, not because of legislation. Legislation was what opened the door to. In FCT, I have personally benefited from the fact that there was a female senator long time ago before me. She actually introduced me to FCT politics. And she performed so well that it gave women a sort of positive sheen. So there are places I go to campaign and they say, yeah, we're going to vote for you because women are better, they're kinder, they pay more attention, they keep their promises, they do this. And they show me some of the things she did, and that was a very, very long time ago. So her footprints are still here, even though she was senator from 1999 to 2003. So as time, and if I perform, which I know I will, as well as she did or even better, then it opens the door for people, to the electorate, to realize that, you know, we're not getting less when we vote in women, we're actually getting more.